Well, you keep saying was. Is this war over?
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. But we'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal very badly.
So President Trump says this war is very close to over. Can we trust him? Can we believe him? We're going to be talking about that because in today's market, the silver price is racing away. Gold is racing away. Stocks are surging, and we're going to break down exactly what's going to happen next with the Iran conflict. So what are the most important things you need to understand right now to be fully informed about where this is going? And we have some pretty interesting economic banking updates and updates about the blockade as well. And plus the big things happening within 7 days from now. So if you guys are enjoying these price rises in your portfolio right now, if you're holding gold or silver, guys like the video, appreciate you being here. Let's get straight into it. So I have to say, look, Trump coming out saying this is pretty much over. I don't think we can fully trust exactly what he's saying. I'll talk about that later in the video because we do have some things that are brewing on the horizon that does indicate this thing is not over yet, that we will reveal later. But that is what Trump is saying. So he's trying to like soften up the market. The market is liking this though. So when you look at the financial markets today, the markets are grinning from ear to ear. Silver is roaring. And this is exactly, this is the spot we want to be in, but we actually want to be in a spot where it's actually really, really over. So if this was 100% locked in, confirmed over, this is where I think silver would be absolutely racing away. And I have to say, during these times, you can see this window. We've rallied from $72 to $80 right now. Silver has been looking super solid. So the dip is, it's nearly gone on silver. It's going to be sitting right here at some previous levels of resistance. So you've got the resistance here. Resistance started to crop up here and it flipped into a little bit of support right there. But we're about 80 bucks of silver and that's looking hot. Gold is also in the realm as well. So pushing back to about $5,000 soon. And you can see right here, once we get back to $5,000, there is a lot of support at $5,000. So it does form a little bit of resistance, of course, but it's a very important level for gold to get to. Once it gets to there, that means it can potentially go for another all-time high. So the markets are liking the rhetoric out of Trump. The markets are liking the ceasefire that is kind of in effect right now. Tankers that we'll talk about soon, it's a mixed bag of some getting blocked, some are successfully getting intercepted by the US blockade. And the stock market is loving it as well. So the SP 500 up 1.2%, now up 10% from the March 30th low. It's added 5.8 trillion over 11 trading days. So the S&P 500 is roaring back. And one thing, you want to be wary of, and this has always been my belief on this channel, is you do want to be wary of inflation. So asset owners are winning. Gold, silver, S&P 500. What's losing, guys? Have a look at this. Breaking US March PPI inflation rises to 4%. It's highest since February 2023. Core PPI inflation was unchanged at 3.8%, also the highest since February 2023. We are now officially seeing inflation metrics in the US that are at 4% or higher. Inflation is back, so absolutely. And just believe as well, inflation it's like a persistent burn in the economy, so it's always going to be there. I think, and that's part of the reason you do see, like if you zoom out on the S&P 500, guys, it's not just these companies are getting more valuable and things like that. It's actually just inflation. It's money pouring into the markets right here. So if we take a very long term, say month-long look at the S&P 500, the graph doesn't go back far enough, but basically you would see this happen, right? So that's inflation, that's money printing, money supply going up. And big beneficiaries, stocks, gold, silver, going well. And the other beneficiaries of this as well, guys, banks are making bank literally. So JP Morgan reports a record 11.6 billion in trading revenue in the first quarter of 2026 as traders cashed in on Iran war volatility. The bank posted its second best quarter in history, generating 16.5 billion in profits Q1 2026. So again, banks making bank right here. Now, onto oil. Oil is crashing. It's going down. So oil is really liking what Trump has been saying. It's actually been liking what's been happening, which is interesting because to some degree, look, there could be manipulation in this market. Let's be honest about this. Is it truthfully the real price of oil? To be determined. But if you have a look right here, we bring up the oil price right now. You look at US oil, this has went way down. Brent has went way down as well. It's went significantly down. So just if we have a look here, say the hourly charts, like it's started to fall quite a lot. So it's down from about, $108 a few days ago, right? $108. It's now sitting at 91. So if this drops even more, we are seeing these inverse effects happen. So oil drops, I expect silver, gold, SP 500 to go up. So if we go back down to say $80 oil, which could potentially be the next level as this thing continues to fall, that would be very, very nice. But we'll talk about whether it's really over or not coming up soon. But at the moment, there is a somewhat successful mixed bag blockade that's happening, right? So this is some real-time data coming in. You can see the tankers, they are the red dots. You can see the container ships, they are the green dots. And some of it is getting turned around. So there is some type of blockade. Some of it is effective. However, there are some countermeasures, and apparently China did actually get blocked at some stage as well. So the Chinese vessel did get intercepted, and sanctions potentially might be coming towards some China and some Arab banks at the moment. But China is in a good position to actually withstand the blockade at the moment. So they're kind of just shrugging this whole thing off, and they do have big links with Russia. And the other thing the Chinese are doing and the Iranians are doing in the back end of this is they are looking at a land bridge. So Iran says it has alternate trade routes through Russia, Central Asia, and China warns US blockade will backfire. So the Iranians, look, they haven't fully backed out of this yet. There is no real, I would say, proper settlement or agreement, or, what Trump has really been saying, is it over? I don't fully trust that. What's going to happen in the next 7 days is this, right? So Grok has alluded to the Iran ceasefire is scheduled to end on April 22, 2026. So as of that date, look, we have about 7 days for an agreement to, get sorted, right? For some type of agreement or extension to get sorted. And, we don't have confirmation just yet. But in the background, I want you to also think about this, because we have seen, this is probably like one of the worst case scenarios, but just have it on the radar. As even though we're having a good rally in stocks, we're enjoying the silver price rises, we're enjoying the gold price rises, watch out for this coalition, right? So French President Emmanuel Macron has announced that France and the UK will hold a conference of nations willing to participate in a multinational coalition aimed at restoring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. President Macron called it a strictly defensive mission separate from warring parties. And this is interesting. So again, remember, politicians always start off by saying this is about, democracy, it's about freedom, it's about defense. They always give you, what sounds good. But what do they really mean? So what does this really mean? This is something to just watch out for, because I do think, look, if there is a building up of an all-in coalition, which we do understand it's unpopular, right? We've heard them talk tough about this, but with politicians, they're flippers. They flip-flop. They tend to blow around in the breeze, and just watch out for this if they do, do it all in. So if you do have all this European nations, NATO nations coming in, and this does end up being like a big attack on Iran, that's probably going to be the worst case scenario, because again, you're going to see more choking off of the oil supplies, more choking off of fertilizer, urea, as this conflict kind of goes back to its maximum stage right now. So at the moment, look, we're going to take these rallies, right? When the market's pumping, we're here for good times. We want to see the prices rise, especially on silver, gold, commodities that we love. And I told you guys to pay attention to copper. Look at copper. This is potentially going to what? This is an all-time high, very close. It's second, nearly second highest time ever for copper. Remember, people need this, right? This is required in economies. It's required in electricity. And remember these long-term assets such as copper, gold, silver. You think about the fundamentals of copper. This stuff is getting harder and harder to mine. There's going to be a supply limit on this. And when there's a supply limit, there's a crunch and demand is going up. Guess what? Price goes up. So these are some pretty nice long-term, assets. Have them on the radar, because things are looking good. But I just want to caveat by saying, look, let's see how the smoke settles. We have about 7 days to go before we might see an agreement. And then after that, what we need to watch out for is if this coalition actually becomes a reality or not. And then the other factor comes in is, can the Iranians even defend against this? So if this was an all-in NATO, USA, Israel against Iran, does it actually work? Or do the Iranians just bunker down and defend the country? So that's something we have to just have on the radar for the long term. But I have to say, guys, interesting day in the markets. Good stuff for gold, silver, SP 500, inflation, coming back with a fire. And that's your update, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Go have a great day. See you in the next one.